This week on Carlie's Couch, we talk about flipping your lid, how to notice emotional dysregulation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Carlie's Couch. My name is Lex.
And I'm Carlie. I almost said Cece, which is not Cece's couch, but I'm Carlie.
Do you go by Cece?
Sometimes if people struggle to say Carlie.
What?
Yeah, don't. Yes. So sometimes it's a thing.
What?
But then it's funny because you can tell people who don't really know me. They might now, but when they first meet me, they're like, hey, Cece, because my Instagram is Cece Fierce.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Definitely. There's some people I only call them by their Instagram name. Shout out Samaj, who I didn't even know his name was James. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
That's funny.
But it's like, he went to A&T, and it's like, I don't know him, but it's funny because he'll tell my friend Damo things to tell me. And then like I saw on LinkedIn or something, he passed the bar. And I was like, oh, tell Samaj. Congratulations. Yeah, shout out Samaj. So like, Dom would be like, yeah, James said, I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about, boss. So yeah, shout out Cece. Cece has a question from the couch today, which is, what's your favorite gym/hype song?
And this was a quick one, so shout out to y'all who answered. I Wanna Rock by Uncle Luke. Dro in the Wind by Trick Daddy featuring CeeLo.
Somebody said Set It Off by Boosie. We Ready, Archie Eversole. Sabotage by Beastie Boys.
TV Off by Kendrick. Anything Beyonce, especially Thick.
Somebody said I actually like R&B in the gym. I was listening to that the other day in the gym too.
And then someone said gospel music. Kirk, Marvin, all of them.
That's good. I'll say throwback that has been getting me hyped recently is Missy Elliott. I'm trying to think of which song it was though, because between Get Your Freak On, but it's not that one, it's another one. But yeah, like sometimes some old stuff will come on and you're like, man, this is just like mad good. Like get you hyped.
Oh yeah. I've been going down a bunch of those rabbit holes. Like I'll hear a song ever since Lexi sent me down a Janet Jackson rabbit hole, and then I feel like I've just been picking random artists and like doing their thing. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I love rehearing songs that take you back to like right when you heard them, or that just get you all excited.
Because that's when you know it's a good song too, when it's not even from your era like that, but it's still just good. All right, today we are talking about flipping your lid, and Carlie, I'll let you tell the context for this episode and what you experienced while you were on one of your, what do you call them, a retreat?
Professional development. Yep, so I work with a couple of school districts and companies in the Bay and do professional developments, other people too, but that's who I've been working with most recently. And we were thinking about ways to teach about social emotional learning to high school juniors and seniors. So there's a program where they work in the after school program with the younger kids. And so we're trying to teach them about nervous system dysregulation and emotions and how to recognize it. And I was laughing because I was like, dog, I feel like a lot of adults actually need this too, because we didn't learn this shit when we was younger. And so that's what we're here to talk about today, is this model of flipping your lid.
So this is what you went through with them and taught them?
Mm-hmm. This was like one of the very short segments, but I think it's very powerful and necessary. And I am a kinesthetic learner. Like I like doing things. And so I'm going to give y'all something to do to practice. And if you have kids, it's a great way to teach them about their emotions.
Mm-hmm. I think this is interesting because it helps us to connect acting recklessly or reactive action to your body, connecting your emotions to like what's actually going on with you. And hopefully if you start to adapt this kind of pause and going through this like way of thinking to understand what's going on with yourself when you're feeling off, then it can almost like just bring you back to realizing like what's the real cause, or helping you to at least be able to de-escalate like your feelings before you do something to somebody or say something inappropriate, etc.
Yeah, because while emotions are valid and I want you to respect your emotions and to honor them and to process them, they're not always true and they're not always directive. Sometimes we get emotions because we're hungry, angry, lonely, tired because we had poor sleep last night, and it's not necessarily the person. And so for me, the biggest thing about noticing dysregulation in myself has really helped my relationships and helps me not pop off at the mouth at somebody or react in a certain way. And so just thinking about those areas of your life, like this can help all of them, with your kids, with your partner, with your friends, with people at work, if you're able to notice your body and what happens to you specifically whenever you go into dysregulation.
Yes. So it's not about not having emotions or covering emotions, but the best way to respond and handle them. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So in doing this, it's important to recognize that our brain has 3 major regions. So we're going to go through what each of these regions are, because then we can say, okay, there's some signs that may point to some things going on in some of these regions that we can then, again, help us to realize, like, all right, what's going on? So what is the first one?
Okay, so you can pick up your hand if you're not driving. If you're driving, just do you. But if you're here with us and you'll pull up your hand and you can point to your wrist. And so when you're thinking about your brain, your wrist is your brain stem. And you can think about all of this as the basic functions, your heart rate, breathing, everything that keeps you alive. It's the oldest part of our brain, and it's even our automatic reaction. So if you touch something hot and you yank your hand away, or if you see somebody coming at you and you move real fast, that is what keeps you alive. And that is the stem, and that is your wrist.
Is the use of your hand just to give you like an illustration?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because people learn different ways. So this is a visual way, a kinesthetic way, an auditory way, and maybe I'll share a graphic or something on Carlie's couch so you can see it too. So your wrist. Your next part is your limbic system, your emotional brain. So you tuck your thumb in, and this is your emotional center. It's your feelings, which are your alarm system. It's meant to keep you safe from danger, thinking about saber-tooth tigers back in the day with our ancestors, by getting you ready to fight or flight or freeze or whatever. So in our limbic system, that's our emotional center, you also have your amygdala, which triggers your fight or flight response. And this can make you even feel in today's society emotionally like you're in danger whenever it's not life or death. So there's no saber-tooth tiger, but your emotions are elevated and you're about to freak out. So that's your thumb. And then the third part is your lid, and that is your thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex. And this is like what is not fully formed in your brain until your mid-20s. And so if you do have kids or you're working with kids, their brains are still soft. They are not fully formed. And so they're not always thinking with their thinking brain. But this is the thinking, planning, learning, decision-making, regulation, and reflection. And so that is that. So to go through it again, your wrist is your brain stem, and that's your basic functions. Your thumb is your emotional brain, your limbic system, and then your fingers folding over, making your fist is your thinking brain, your prefrontal cortex.
So then as we go through the signs that there may be an issue with one of those, to me, I would guess, thinking ahead, that most of them are probably have to do with that limbic area, just because the brain stem seem like that's kind of like automatic things. Although if you are like sometimes, like if people are dealing with depression or certain things, sometimes you're like slow to react to things, you're more numb. So maybe that could mean a dysregulated. Okay, now I'm getting into the list. So let's just get into the list of signs. Signs, because maybe they aren't all of them and it can show something's going on.
Before I hop into it, well, do you notice any signs like that tell you that your body is dysregulated before we hop into the list? Like something where you know, like, all right, Lex, I'm tripping or I'm not regulated.
What does not regulated mean though? That just when you feel off?
Dysregulated means that you're not operating.
Could that just be anything?
It means you're not operating with that prefrontal cortex. It means that, like I said, a lot of people, if you're hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, you're probably not thinking straight because your body very physically needs things to sustain it, to keep it alive. For me, I notice like I might start to clench my jaw or feel like a little bit of rage or like, not like flashes of red, but things like that. Like those kind of tell me like, oh, if I'm real quick to try to reply to you or to talk over you or do something, like I notice my lid has flipped and I am not present, like with my thinking brain.
Any little thing is off, then your lid has flipped with this example?
Well, it depends. That's why I said it depends on the person, because we all have different types of levels of, because I fast sometimes, so food might not necessarily be a trigger for me anymore. But whereas like if I'm really tired, I'm probably not thinking with my best brain. And so that's the goal of this, is to help people recognize whenever they're not regulated, whenever their lid has flipped.
I guess the only thing that's kind of that I'm thinking a little too hard about is like, it seems like it's a sliding scale of, you know, how air quote off you might be or dysregulated you might be, and how serious it might be. But for me, if I'm thinking about it the right way, correct me if I'm not, like the times when I'm like, I feel like something's kind of off and I might need to do something, like you might need to work out, or you could tell when it's like, I need to eat, you know, something different or whatever. One of those where it's like when you can listen to your body, see what's going on and figure out a next move. I would say is if I'm feeling more emotional than usual, like that's something that would let me know usually something going on with hormones. I also just acknowledging that can help you just pay more attention and not react and, move out of that space. I would say definitely times of getting into like inaction or just feeling burnt out or being burnt out, where you just kind of feel like you don't really want to do anything. It's probably your body's like dysregulated in a few of the different spaces. That's my top ones right now. And when we go through the list, I probably can identify with some more of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big part of this is for you to personally recognize in your own body, like when things are off, because we're all so different. It is a sliding scale because on one very far end that goes into like, and I think you mentioned one. So there's two far ends. One is inaction, depression, feeling stuck. That's when you're stuck in your freeze. So your lid is flipped and you are stuck in your freeze state,
manic,
which is the other side. And so thinking those are the two polar ends. But in between that, we mentioned having trouble steering your moods, feeling stuck or feeling unable to make yourself feel better with things that normally make you feel better, becoming easily frustrated by small things. If you are so snappy and normally it wouldn't bother you, like that's a sign that you could be dysregulated.
Yeah. Mood swings, impulsive behavior, like, you just need some excitement, you need to feel something, maybe mania or hypomania, troubles with emotions interfering with how you pursue goals and achieve desired outcomes.
Yep. Persistent irritability or anger between outbursts, like, or you just like snap on somebody because like somebody dropped something. What the fuck is that? Blah, blah, blah. Like if you just are noticing in your sign, like you're more prone to losing your temper, your nervous system is probably dysregulated.
Yeah. We've all seen like people react to things and it's just like, what's happening? And maybe because we can see such extreme examples at times, it's hard to recognize ourselves if we're not regulated until it feels like it's like hugely overwhelming or you're hugely burnt out. And maybe that's part of the problem too, is that you don't really catch it often as things are building up. So what does this mean though? If we're now like, okay, certain things are happening where I know, my nervous system is not regulated right now. That's a natural thing, right? Like that happens. So what now? Like, what does this mean?
This means that you have an opportunity to notice. And that's why I really want you to take some time this week to figure out what does dysregulation look like for you. It might not look like anything Lexi and I talked about. It might be something very specific to you. But once you notice it happening, and I have an example. So I was having like a conversation with my partner and then I started raising my voice and I noticed and I was like, and he tried to continue. And I was like, actually, can we come back to this in like 10 minutes? I'm not feeling regulated right now. And I was able to have a really great conversation with him because I noticed in my own body, I started feeling like really tense and I started wanting to like argue and all these things I noticed in myself. And I was able to stop, pause, ask for what I need because I know that I need a little bit of space and then have a better conversation, which helps de-escalate.
So in that example, for clarification, like that happening was a result of dysregulation. That's not you becoming dysregulated, right? Because it's not just like I got my feelings hurt or something happened, I'm dysregulated all of a sudden. That's not
dysregulation can happen like that. And so, like for example, if someone undercuts you in a meeting or takes credit for your work, you might very much in that moment be very dysregulated and want to lash out or want to have a very brazen response. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like sometimes like emotions can be warranted. Yeah,
I feel like also maybe more so in my mind is that will be an example of like a trigger of the fact that you need to regulate in certain spaces or that there's certain things like to work on. If something triggers you and it still affects you, because there's some things I could tell like over time, they don't trigger you anymore, or you're kind of seem a little more zen or peaceful in certain spaces. And then there's other things where it does come up. And so there's something you said about noticing where I feel like in this time where, as soon as you can stop and notice that something is off, then that is the greatest gain in this, because it just gives you so much opportunity to, we're talking about physiological like things like with the brain and all of that, that may show you like a certain need, But then also you can like kind of mentally also think about like what's going on with like why you feel the need to be so upset about whatever's happening right now. Like there's just so many things to think about. So I guess it's like helpful to kind of just go through this quick checklist.
Yeah, and so it's just an opportunity to notice. And like it's okay to be dysregulated, but I think sometimes when we have more resiliency, it's because we are taking really great care of ourselves. Like if you are fed well, if you are nutrition, if you are moving your body, if you are resting, if you are getting your work done, if you're doing all these things, your resiliency is going to be much higher. But in the world that we live in and all the crazy stuff that's happening right now, we are on edge a little bit, and we are much more prone to flipping our lid and acting out of this emotional brain because there's a lot of very real threats and things happening in the world. And so it's okay, but I wanted to share this to help you take that time to notice what dysregulation looks like for you so that you can catch yourself in the moment, because I can't even remember and sometimes you don't even know necessarily why you got dysregulated. And for me, it wasn't about like, well, why do I feel like this and what happened? It was just recognizing in the moment I wanted to fight because I felt dysregulated, and that wasn't the best course of action or how my thinking brain, my regulated self, would want to react in this situation. This is a person that I love. I want to talk to them with respect. I want to bring it down and figure out what's going on and have this conversation. But whenever your prefrontal cortex is not present, then you can't really have that. And so a lot of this is self-discovery and you taking the work to know what you need, what you're missing, and taking time to figure out like, okay, what does dysregulation look like for me? So that whenever you notice it happening, you can have a little toolkit to move you forward in a way that honors who you are and who you want to be.
Okay. So let's talk about the toolkit. First of all, I'll say I feel like it can take time because a lot of the dysregulation kind of accumulates over time and over habits and over, because of beliefs or mindsets and things. And so it is, a huge thing, first of all, just to notice. But once you start to notice them, what are some things that we can do to regulate ourselves?
The first one is to do the best you can to take the best care of yourself possible so that you have as much resiliency as possible in general. So make sure that you are taking care of your mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, all of those things. You're eating well,
I feel like that's the answer. But like that's just a zillion things in all of that, right?
Yeah, but that's why
that is the answer.
And that's why I hate it. It's like, well, it depends. It's a very consultancy answer, but it does, because like I need a lot more movement than it seems a lot of other people in my life. Like to keep myself regulated and to be my best self, I have to move my body a lot because I have a lot of energy, a lot of fiery energy that will explode in other ways if I'm not constantly moving and taking care of it, because it's a big coping mechanism, but also has become a way of life for me. So movement is a big one. And I challenge anybody, like if you notice dysregulation, go take a walk, go work out if you can. Obviously you can't do that in everything, but movement is a big one. Another one is mindfulness. I know people hate hearing that, but it really does work. Taking a moment of breath work, taking a stretch, tapping as an EFT practice, and tapping actually helps calm your nervous system. Doing pogo hops, like jumping up and down, actually helps your nervous system relax and calm down. Or even grounding, which I know you like to do, like outside in the grass or in the sunshine.
Is there a way that people can identify what's a good way for them to regulate, or is it just one of those things where they just need to assess for themselves and just try things and see? And is it like you just, I feel better all of a sudden, or like how do you know you're regulating? If you do these things.
Great question. So the world is your oyster. It's choose your own adventure. You have to try things to see if they work for you. And for me, I feel the tension release. Like I might still very much be in my head with my mind racing, but I can feel the tension relax in my shoulders if I go take a walk real quick outside and then I come back. Or even speaking up for myself and giving myself space and then coming back to a situation where I felt very dysregulated and very triggered by. So I notice a very physical reaction with these things. Like breathing, every time I teach breath work at the beginning of anything, people are like, oh, I feel so much better. And it's like, because it's just a little bit of a reprieve from the stress that we all live in.
For me, I can feel most regulated when I just feel in such a good and light mood, when there isn't any anxiety about communicating or being, around with and around other people, whoever it is or who they are. Because sometimes you're kind of tight, and then sometimes you feel good and you feel like you're a magnet. And it was interesting because I don't know, it might have been a couple months ago now. I don't remember what actually, maybe I kind of do, but it was like a few weeks where I was like, man, I just felt so like light was coming off me. And it was literally like every other day, like people would stop me while I was outside and like start talking to me. And like the second or third time it happened, I was like, man, people keep having like these conversations with me. And they're like the same type of combo, or like they were like, who are you? Or like, what's going on? Or do you do this? And like just start talking. And it was just so interesting because I was like, I feel like people can feel that too, that when your energy is different. And mine, most of it has to do with health for me, like gut health. And I think that has a big effect on my hormones for me. So I don't know. I think because I don't really know, but like I can tell the difference in times where I just feel regulated, and then those times I don't procrastinate that much. In those times, I just like get things done, and I don't have as much barrier to things. And in those times, it's where I try to take advantage of it, and like I'll really push myself. I'll work a little more. Try to have meetings and conversations and stuff, and just take advantage of while I'm feeling like that, because something will kind of happen or whatever. And then there's times where I'm like a little bit lower energy.
Man, I have days where I'm like, I really feel like myself today. And I feel like that's the most regulated. Like, man, I'm showing up how I want to. I feel good. I'm sleeping well. I'm showing up as my highest self. Like, that's when I feel like, oh, okay, I'm regulated. And that's when I can notice when I'm not.
Yeah, it feels good to feel like yourself. And it feels good to just feel like you can move through the world, and like that things around you and outside of you aren't as affecting you and like your mindset. When you're regulated, you just have like a little bit more control around like, and a little more like power over yourself in that way.
And that's what we want for y'all. So we want you to take some time this week to notice your triggers, the things that flip your lid, how dysfunction or dysregulation and dysfunction, I guess, feel in your body. And then, like Lexi said, choose your own adventure with the different techniques. Try different things to see what makes you feel good and makes you feel most like yourself.
Have a good week.